my life where it felt like my world was caving in. You all hear me? It felt like my world was caving in. And I needed a word from God. I needed a word from God. My church wasn't there. Right? I wasn't a pastor or a bishop at that time, but my church wasn't there. Right? Certain family members weren't there. But I needed a word from God. I was all by myself because my wife was in the hospital with my son. Right? And I was all by myself. Right? All by myself. Children in different places. My children, the two daughters, was in out of state with their grandmother. And I would come back. I used to have a full house. And I would come back to this empty place. Empty place. My son battling for his life. My wife is down there. We're down in the hospital with her. My two daughters were in another state. And I would come back to that house. Right? I was in a low place. That's why I'm asking, has anybody ever been in a low place before? Right? And I didn't grow up in the church. And I thought that, man, it should all be about love, right? The church should be about love. It should be coming around, lifting me up, trying to encourage me, seeing what I needed, seeing that they could do something for me. But none of that was available to me. None of that was available to me. Right? But it was almost defeating. But I remember, see, the word of God, right? It is true. He will not leave you without room to escape. You understand me? You understand me? He will give you an opportunity. He will throw out a lifeline to you if you allow it, if you take a hold of it. But see, some people, this will fall on deaf ears to somebody, right? Because no matter what I'll say, it won't penetrate them. Because they're too deeply rooted into this world, into what this world has to offer. And I feel sorry for them individuals. But the bottom line of it is that I would come back there and I needed a word because I wasn't getting strengthened from my church or from no one else. I couldn't expect to get strengthened from my wife because she's down there needing strength in herself. She's down there all by herself too. We were both separated. She's at the hospital, and I'm up there where I'm at trying to continue to work and make money so we can have a place to live. Right? I couldn't be down there. But the bottom line of it is, I remember, I got a word from God, and it changed everything. See, this is talking about this is leading. I tell you, God, I didn't have any idea I was going to say this stuff. I had no idea I was going to say it, but it ties into the title. Why should you believe in Jesus? Because if you be open, he will reveal himself to you. If you be open to it. So I come back to that house. And I just, I couldn't even sleep in the bedroom. I stay on the couch. Right? And I remember being on that couch, turning to the Word of God. Turn into the Word of God, and guess what it told me? It said, after you have suffered a while, strengthen, establish, make you perfect. That's all I needed to hear. That's all I needed to hear, right? I know people want to rely on their support system, right? They want to rely on people and to try to help to lift them up. But sometimes you got to just be by yourself with God. Who knows what I'm talking about? Sometimes you got to be all by yourself with God for him to talk to you, to talk to your spirit. And I'm telling you, that's what it was. That's all I needed. I don't think anybody who could have came to me could have said something to me that could have did what that Word of God did. Amen. Right? Could have did what the Word of God did. Nothing that no one could have done could have turned it around for me. But I thank God. So what I'm telling you, you can't get that in any worldly song. The only thing we're doing is fattening their pockets and moving us further away from God. That's all we're doing. And you're talking about someone who loves music. Man, please. I remember some of you all heard about him, but I've seen him in concert. I don't remember too much. I was young, but I went to a Jackson 5 concert when he was performing with his brothers. Right? I'm down there about 3 or 4 years old. The only thing I can remember is the spotlight on the stage. Right? But I was there. I was there. Right? But the bottom line of it is I love music. I remember whenever I was going, me and my best friend played in the same backfield in high school. We were going, went up to WVU. And his brother, I brought me a brand new stereo system, man. The speakers, man, I was ready to rock the house. You understand what I mean? I love, man. I mean, you're talking about something. It's nothing that you all can tell me that I can't relate to. You understand me? But see, that's why I know this side is way better than the side that anybody could be on out there. I know it. I live both lives. I know it. So nobody can say, oh man, you just been brainwashed. You heard that all your life. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't hear it all my life. But what I'm trying to tell you is this, is I remember buying them big speakers. And his brother was like, Vince, man, he's a good friend of mine too, but he tried to down my party a little bit. He said, oh man, he said, yeah, you got them big speakers. I guess if you need to, you can always pawn them to pay rent. What do you mean I'm going to pawn? I ain't pawning my speakers. I'm about pawning my speakers. I got to get my jam on. You understand me? But the bottom line of it is that I lived both lives. I know what the life it was without serving him. But I did believe in God, but I was ignorant about my belief. I didn't know him. I didn't know him. I didn't know his word. I didn't know his will. But I believed. I did believe. Now that's a step above some people, because some people just don't believe. But I was ignorant about his word, and I had a hard time digesting it sometimes. You know what I mean? I'm sitting there in organized religion. I had a hard time with that, right? But I don't downplay it. Some people like to talk about the church. They like to talk about the church. They like to try to make it seem like, like church, you don't need to have formal religion. You don't need to have a man of God in your life. Only thing you need to do is have God, you and God by yourself. That's foolish talk. They don't know what the word of God is. The word of God in Jeremiah said, I'll give you pastors after my own heart that will feed you with knowledge and understanding. Right? God has always had people. He had Moses. He had Joshua. He has always had people to deliver, to lead his people. But when you hear people talk like that, because they don't know their Bible. They don't know Bible, so they're giving you opinion. That's all they're giving you. They're giving you opinion. Right? Word of God says, feed the flock of God. Right? Feed the flock of God. So if you're not there feeding, who are you feeding? You got to be people in the pews to be feeding. Right? You got to have people. Right? He said, how can they hear without a preacher? Who's he talking to? To the church mouse? He's talking about people being in the pews. How can they hear without a preacher? How can he preach except he be sent? But I'm going to get back. I had a hard time with formal religion because I wasn't gifted being, knowing chapter, book, and verse and all that. I didn't know that. I couldn't even probably tell you one Bible verse. I would have been blessed if I could have told you, the Lord is my shepherd. I would have been blessed to be able to tell you that, but I don't even know if I could even quote it that. But the bottom line of it is that I have a hard time with formal religion. I say formal meaning that, following God's plan, his rules, coming into his church and following his will. I had a hard time with that. I didn't like to be told what to do all the time. Right? I didn't like to be told by man what to do. I didn't see that as an example in my dad, and I didn't like to be told how to do it and when to do it and which way to do something. I didn't like that. I didn't grow up that way, and I'm like, man, what? I got to do something. I got to do this. I got to, what? Really? Right? But as I yielded myself, that's when God can mold you into what he wants you to be. Right? All that stuff all that past experiences, right, can lead you to the moment and the place that you're supposed to be in. Can lead you to that place. Right? So I thank God for that. But so what I'm telling you, it's like, why should you believe in Jesus? And a lot of people have a hard time believing in him. They do. They have a hard time believing in Jesus. Right? Because they weren't there. Right? Because they weren't there, they don't believe. right? But I'm going to share something with you. I don't necessarily think it's just because they weren't there, right? Because there's evidence of other things that they weren't there for before too. You understand me? They weren't here. There are only people who've been, you weren't here for everything, but yet you believe in things that you were told about that you weren't here for. Right? Right? We weren't here. None of us was here for George Washington being president, but you believe that he was a president. Right? You believe that. Right? None of us was here, whenever John Kennedy was assassinated. But we believe he was. Right? We believe certain things. Right? None of us actually seen hydrogen and oxygen come together to where we see it come into water. But we believe that hydrogen and oxygen forms and makes water. None of us seen that on a molecular level before. None of us have. But yet we believe that H2O. We used to go around, I need some H2O. Why are we quoting things that we never seen before? I never seen it on a molecular level. Never. I taught chemistry in high school and college, but I never seen it on a molecular level. H2O. But we believe things. But why is that? Why can we believe certain things about science and certain things about history, but we have a hard time believing the word of God? Yeah. Have a hard time believing that Jesus had walked this earth. Why is it? I'm going to tell you why. The reason why is because believing this requires a lifestyle change. I don't have to have a lifestyle change believing that George Washington was the first president. There's no lifestyle change that I have to come to. But whenever I believe the word of God, there's a lifestyle change because there are certain things that thou shall do, and there's certain things that we shall not do. And that's whenever I believe it comes into the play. So now they look at it and they try to find things that kind of discredit. Well, I don't know if it's really, I think man that wrote that. Well, men wrote some history books too. But the bottom line is what I'm telling you but the beautiful thing about the word of God is he tells us to taste and see that the Lord is good. So we can taste and try it. We can sample it.